Customs Memorandum Order. CMO, number 09, 2020. Subject: implementing the Authorized Economic Operator, AEO, program established under CAO 5/2017 for importers and exporters. Section 1. Scope. This CMO shall cover the pilot implementation of Authorized Economic Operator, AEO, program for importers and exporters. The rollout of implementation of AEO for other stakeholders as provided in Section 4.2 of Customs Administrative Order, CAO, number 5/2017 shall be upon the issuance of subsequent regulations relative thereto. Section 2. Objectives. 2.1 To implement a pilot AEO program for importers and exporters pursuant to Customs Administrative Order, CAO, number 05/2017. 2.2 To operationalize an interim AEO office tasked to effectively implement the AEO program, and 2.3 To provide the detailed guidelines on the application, processing and approval of application for accreditation as AEO importer and exporter, their availment of benefits and audit thereof. Section 3. Definition of terms. 3.1 Appeal shall refer to the remedy by which a person who is aggrieved or adversely affected by any action, decision, order, or omission of the Bureau or the Secretary of Finance may seek redress before the court of competent jurisdiction. 3.2 Authorized Economic Operator, AEO, shall refer to the importer, exporter, customs broker, forwarder, freight forwarder, transport provider, and any other entity duly accredited by the Bureau based on the World Customs Organization, WCO, framework of standards to secure and facilitate global trade, WCO Integrated Supply Chain Management Guidelines, ISCM Guidelines, the Convention on the Simplification and Harmonization of Customs Procedures, Revised Kyoto Convention, the WCO Supply Chain Management Guidelines. The WTO Agreement on Trade Facilitation, WTO-ATF, and the various national best practices to promote trade facilitation and to provide a seamless movement of goods across borders through secure international trade supply chains with the use of risk management and modern technology. 3.3. Customs Administration shall refer to the government service which is responsible for the administration of customs laws and the application of other laws and regulations relating to the importation, exportation, movement, or storage of goods. As far as the Philippines is concerned, Customs Administration shall refer to the Bureau of Customs. 3.4. Exporter shall refer to a natural or juridical person engaged in the exportation of any goods or commodities to a foreign country from the Philippines. 3.5 Importer shall refer to a natural or juridical person engaged in the importation of any goods into the Philippines. 3.6 Mutual Recognition Arrangement, MRA, shall refer to a formal document between two or more customs administrations outlining the circumstances and conditions in which AEO programs are recognized and accepted between the signing parties. The MRA sets out the process to implement, evaluate, monitor, and maintain mutual recognition and defines the benefits mutually provided to the AEOs by the participating customs administrations and lays down the practical arrangements enabling the participating customs administrations to provide those benefits. 3.7 Trade documents shall refer to the timely, accurate, complete, and verifiable documents relating to importation and exportation. This may include commercial records of business processes that facilitate a full audit trail of customs activities or tax-relevant movement of goods or accounting entries. 3.8 Validation shall refer to a procedure whereby the supply chain of an AEO, and all relevant processes employed by them to reach that status, are subject to full and transparent review by a customs administration. Section 4. Collection of fees. The fees to be collected in relation to the application for accreditation and supervision as authorized economic operator, if any, shall be in accordance with the approved rates provided for under Customs Administrative Order on customs dues, service fees, and charges. Section 5. Application of Information and Communications Technology, ICT. In accordance with international standards, the Bureau shall utilize information and communications technology to enhance customs control and to support a cost-effective and efficient customs operations geared towards a paperless customs environment. Section 6. Risk Management. In the implementation of the AEO program, the Bureau shall employ audit-based controls and risk management systems, use automation to the fullest extent possible, and adopt a compliance measurement strategy to support risk management. Section 7. Audit of AEOs. The audit of AEO shall be made in accordance with the parameters as may be set by the Post-Clearance Audit Group, PCAG, of the Bureau. Section 8. Organizational Structure. 8.1 Interim AEO Office. Pending the creation of a permanent AEO office, an interim AEO office is hereby created to be headed by a division chief, manned by a minimum of 5 permanent staff and at least 5 personnel under contract of service, who will be assigned to work full-time to implement the AEO program. 8.2 The AEO office shall be supervised by a deputy commissioner to be designated by the commissioner. 8.3 The chief, AEO office and heads of its units shall be designated by the Commissioner of Customs. 8.4 The AEO office shall be composed of the following units: 8.4.1 Accreditation Unit, 8.4.2 Post-Validation Unit, and 8.4.3 Mutual Recognition, Statistical and Records Management, MRSRM, Unit. 8.5 Functions. The AEO office and its units shall perform the following functions. 8.5.1 AEO Office. A. Manage the overall implementation of the AEO program, including the strengthening of the core competency of the Bureau of Customs to effectively operationalize the AEO program. B. Make optimum use of information and communication technology in carrying out its mandate under the CMO, in coordination with the Management and Information System Technology Group, MISTG, to help create an AEO database, the configuration, access to, usage, maintenance, and management of which shall be determined by regulation. Establish an efficient, fair, and transparent system of evaluating applications for AEO membership accreditation through a set of criteria laid down in the CMO. C. Accept, evaluate, and process AEO application for membership accreditation, and endorse any action thereon to the Chief, AEO Office for approval. D. Monitor and/or post-review the lodgement and processing of AEO shipments in coordination with the Post-Clearance Audit Group, PCAG, and other concerned offices, as well as the level of compliance with the AEO policies, rules, and regulations both by concerned customs personnel and the AEO member. E. Promptly resolve any issue or dispute arising from the implementation of the AEO rules and regulations. F. Initiate study, recommend strategy, and negotiate MRAs with other countries. G. Evaluate the performance of the AEO program through continuous data gathering, research, and study, including periodic consultation with customs stakeholders, industry groups, AEO program users, other government agencies and other customs administration. H. Develop and recommend policies to enhance the AEO program towards attaining its twin objectives of cargo security and trade facilitation. I. Conduct periodic information and educational campaign to promote the AEO program. J. Conduct continuing educational and training program with foreign counterparts to make the AEO program at par with international standards and best practices, and K. Ensure the activation and yearly renewal of an AEO member's client profile in the Client Profile Registration System, CPRS. For ease of monitoring and operations, the AEO office shall have access to the CPRS. I. Perform such other functions necessary for the effective and efficient implementation of the AEO program. 8.5.2 Accreditation Unit. A. Accept, process, review and recommend for approval applications as required by regulation. B. Create and maintain a database for all accreditation applications filed with the AEO office and documentary files of each AEO member. C. Validate information with other government institutions, among others, provided in the application through cross-referencing with available data, site visit, system or process walkthrough, or personal interview of applicant or duly designated and competent representative. D. Evaluate the level of risk to cargo security and customs compliance of the applicant's business profile and operations based on information gathered vis-a-vis the guidelines and criteria set down by policy and recommend action on the application to the Chief, AEO Office. E. Submit on a regular basis to the MRSRM unit any information on its tile as may be required by the latter office in connection with the discharge of its functions as provided for in the CMO. And F. Perform such other functions as may be assigned from time to time by the Chief, AEO Office. 8.5.3 Post-Validation Unit. A. Monitor and or post-review compliance of AEO member pursuant to the criteria in Section 9.1 of the CMO. B. Check and ensure that all critical information, such as those pertaining to the entity's ownership and business profile, import or export process flow, financial status, list of importable items, and the like, as provided by the AEO accredited entity during the application period, are current or are promptly updated. See record issues, concerns, and problems encountered in the processing of AEO shipments in coordination with the Post-Clearance Audit Group and other concerned offices and recommend compliance enhancement measures. D. Identify violations and recommend corrective or punitive action as the evidence may warrant, such as suspension or revocation of accreditation, full customs audit and administrative and or criminal investigation as may be provided for in the CMO or other applicable laws, rules, and regulations. E. Conduct on-site visits to the premises of the AEO entity to ensure continuous compliance with the standards laid down by regulation. F. Submit periodic report to the Chief, AEO Office copy furnished the MRSRM unit on the results of all actions, evaluation, and assessment undertaken in relation to the discharge of the foregoing functions, and G. Perform such other functions as may be assigned from time to time by the Chief, AEO Office. 8.5.4 Mutual Recognition, Statistical and Records Management, MRSRM, Unit. A. Monitor the individual performance of each AEO accredited entity and the performance as a whole of the AEO program through an ICT-enabled database which may be sourced from the AEO application forms and evaluation reports, data from import clearance system for AEO shipments, reports of the units under the AEO office, and such other relevant data or information obtained by the units from other official sources and generate statistical report on 1. Number and status of applications filed, accreditations granted or denied, warnings, suspensions or revocations made or any disciplinary action taken. 2. Statistics obtained from the individual and collective import operations of the AEO accredited members pertaining, as may be applicable, to the number of entries filed, origin, volume, customs value, and tariff heading declared, and preferential rate availed of, among other relevant customs data. 3. Revenue collection statistics involving the individual and collective payment of duties and taxes of the AEO accredited members arising from their operations, and 4. Average clearance time in the processing of imports under the AEO program vis-a-vis the standards set down by policy. B. Initiate study, recommend strategy, and if authorized by the Commissioner, negotiate MRAs with other countries, and C. Perform such other functions as may be assigned from time to time by the Chief, AEO Office. Section 9. Accreditation. 9.1 Criteria. 9.1.1 General Criteria. A. Business ownership, structure, and organization. B. Corporate or business profile and projected business activity. C. End-to-end import or export process, goods, documentation and payment flow, and local distribution system, if any. D. Entities involved in foreign supply and/or local distribution chain. E. List of goods imported or exported including the nature, specific description in tariff terms, customs value, preferential rates to be availed of, and volume, over time. F. Internal customs compliance control. G. Customs compliance history. H. Business process continuity mechanism. I. Financial viability, and J. Other similar factors to be determined by the Commissioner. 9.1.2 Security infrastructure. A. Cargo handling and safekeeping. B. Record keeping and IT system. C. Supply and trading partner. D. Physical premises and access control. E. Personnel complement. F. Security training, threat awareness, and outreach. G. Conveyance security. And H. Other similar factors to be determined by the Commissioner. 9.1.3 The applicant entity must have been in operation for at least 1 year prior to the date of application. 9.1.4 That none of the executive officers and directors directly engaged in customs procedures and shareholders, as applicable, have not been found to have violated customs laws and procedures and or found criminally liable for violation of any Philippine laws, rules, and regulations within 3 years from date of application. 9.1.5 The applicant must have a dedicated office or unit or responsible officer whose main function is to ensure the applicant's compliance with its duties and responsibilities under the AEO program as an accredited member. 9.2 Applicants with multiple services in the international supply chain, example applying as AEO importer and exporter, one application form may be submitted for several categories but the AEO certificate of accreditation shall be per category. 9.3 Pre-screening. The AEO office shall conduct a pre-screening process for all interested AEO candidate to determine their readiness and compliance with the criteria and standards set for AEO prior to their application for accreditation. 9.3.1 Pre-screening procedure. An AEO candidate may signify its intention to be an AEO by submitting the following through the AEO online portal or the Office of the Supervising Deputy Commissioner for AEO. 1. Notarized pre-screening form, Annex A. 2. Notarized self-assessment questionnaire, Annex B. 3. Risk evaluation sheet, Annex C. 4. Notarized undertaking, Annex D. 5. Financial documents, example annual BIR returns, financial report, etc. 6. SEC/DTI registration, as applicable. 7. Mayor's permit and or certificate of registration, i.e., BOI, PEZA, SBMA, etc., as applicable, and 8. General information sheet, GIS. B. Once received, the Chief, AEO office shall assign an account manager assisted by AEO inspectors. The account manager shall review and provide feedback and recommendations to the AEO candidate within 15 calendar days from receipt of complete documents. C. The account manager may schedule consultation meetings and inspections to guide the AEO candidate on the standards required to be an AEO importer and or exporter within 5 days from issuance of feedback and recommendation. D. The AEO candidate shall be given a reasonable period to comply with the recommendations of the account manager. E. The account manager shall prepare an evaluation report determining the level of readiness of the applicant and submit the same to the head, accreditation unit within 5 days from evaluation. F. The Chief, AEO office shall review the recommendation and issue a pre-screening clearance to AEO candidates who have been determined to meet the criteria within 10 calendar days from receipt of recommendation. The same shall be recommended to proceed for AEO application. AEO candidates who fail to meet the criteria of the AEO program shall be recommended for further trainings and consultations by the AEO office. 9.4 Application. An AEO applicant shall submit its application form together with the following documentary requirements through the AEO online portal. 9.4.1 Notarized application form, Annex A. 9.4.2 Pre-screening clearance. 9.4.3 Notarized self-assessment questionnaire, Annex B. 9.4.4 Risk evaluation sheet, Annex C. 9.4.5 Notarized undertaking, Annex D. 9.4.6 Financial documents, example annual BIR returns, financial report, etc. 9.4.7 SEC/DTI registration, as applicable. 9.4.8 Mayor's permit and or certificate of registration, i.e., BOI, PEZA, SBMA, etc., as applicable. 9.4.9 General Information Sheet, GIS, and 9.4.10 Secretary's Certificate designating the authorized person to process the application. 9.5 Evaluation. Evaluation shall be conducted within 10 calendar days from receipt of complete documents. This may include verification of information with other government institutions and through cross-referencing with available data, among others. 9.6 Validation. 9.6.1 The account manager shall prepare the validation plan based on the initial findings in the document evaluation and notify the applicant of the required validation within 5 calendar days from evaluation. 9.6.2 The validation shall be conducted within 15 calendar days from receipt of notice through the AEO online portal. The notice shall contain the names of the authorized inspectors who shall conduct the on-site inspection. 9.6.3 The authorized officer of the applicant and the designated account manager from the AEO office may discuss the detailed schedule and other preparations for the on-site inspection. 9.6.4 During the conduct of the validation, the account manager and/or the authorized AEO inspector shall verify if the security measures and other required criteria are complied with. This may include system walkthrough or personal interview of applicant or duly designated and competent representative. 9.6.5 In case the applicant has more than one place of business, application should be submitted after preparing and classifying them according to each place of business with respect to the areas directly related to the application for AEO authorization. 9.7 Decision. 9.7.1 The AEO inspector shall submit the report of findings within 5 calendar days from the end of the validation to the account manager. 9.7.2 The account manager shall prepare document evaluation, validation reports, and his/her recommendation which shall be submitted to the head accreditation unit within 10 calendar days from the end of the validation. 9.7.3 The head accreditation unit shall forward the recommendation to the Chief AEO office for endorsement to the Supervising Deputy Commissioner. 9.7.4 The Supervising Deputy Commissioner shall meet with the Chief and unit heads of the AEO office and the account manager within 5 calendar days from receipt of the endorsement to deliberate the application. 9.7.5 After the deliberation, the account manager shall prepare a resolution within 5 calendar days for signature of the Chief and unit heads of the AEO office and Supervising Deputy Commissioner who shall review the same within 10 calendar days from receipt. 9.7.6 If approved, the AEO office shall notify the applicant in writing of his accreditation as Level 1 AEO member within 3 calendar days from receipt of the decision and issue an AEO certificate of accreditation. 9.7.7 If disapproved, the AEO office shall notify the applicant in writing stating the grounds for denial of application within 3 calendar days from receipt of the decision. 9.8 An AEO applicant whose application for accreditation was disapproved by the Supervising Deputy Commissioner may reapply within 1 year, allowing the applicant to complete the deficiencies, if any, or upgrade its security system/requirements, as may be needed. 9.9 The processing of an AEO application may be extended upon reasonable grounds, example further review and validation, etc., but should not exceed the 90-day period for Level 1 accreditation. 9.10 Complete records of Level 1 AEO members should be provided by the accreditation unit to the post-validation unit for monitoring and subsequent validation. Section 10. Monitoring of compliance. 10.1 Revalidation of the security measures and supply chain security practices of the accredited Level 1 member shall be in accordance with the criteria referred to in Section 9.1 of the CMO. It shall include on-site assessments at appropriate foreign locations utilized by the Level 1 member in its supply chain and shall, to the extent practicable, be completed no later than 1 year after certification as a Level 1 member. 10.2 Revalidation shall commence 6 months from Level 1 accreditation of an AEO member. 10.3 The AEO office, may motu proprio, consider a Level 1 member for upgrading of status to Level 2 or 3 depending on its degree of compliance with the requirements for accreditation as an AEO. 10.4 For an entity which has been in operation for less than 3 years prior to application, a compliance history of at least 3 continuous years must be established before being eligible to be upgraded to Level 2 status. As such, the revalidation process shall immediately commence after accreditation as Level 1 member for a period of at least 1 year. The period shall be extended as may be necessary to establish the required record of compliance. 10.5 Revalidation process. 10.5.1 Head, Post-Validation Unit shall assign account managers and AEO inspectors conduct revalidation of Level 1 AEO members. 10.5.2 Local revalidation process shall be conducted pursuant to Section 9.6 of the CMO. 10.5.3 Conduct of on-site assessment at appropriate foreign locations shall be determined based on the risk determined by the post-validation unit after local revalidation and evaluation. 10.5.4 If a foreign site company used by the Level 1 AEO member in its supply chain is certified in another AEO program by the Customs Administration of said country, on-site assessment may not be conducted. 10.5.5 The AEO office shall identify the following, as applicable. 1. Issues pertaining to nature of business, transactions, etc. subject to improvements. 2. Required actions to maintain the criteria for its membership in the AEO program, and 3. Level adjustment, as may be applicable for Level 2 or 3 certification and benefits. 10.5.6 The decision and approval process of the Level 2 accreditation shall be pursuant to Section 9.7 of the CMO, except that evaluation, inspection report, recommendation, and other actionable documents shall be forwarded by the account manager to the head, post-validation unit. 10.6 Level 3 accreditation. The Commissioner, subject to the approval of the Secretary of Finance, shall designate a criteria for validating an AEO member as a Level 3 member. Section 11. AEO membership responsibilities. 11.1 To maintain the standards set in accordance with the criteria referred to in Section 9.1 of the CMO. 11.2 To update the Bureau on any change in the member's status as recipient of certain official privileges, general information sheet, name of contact persons and contact numbers and/or email addresses, importation process flow, product sourcing, list of imported items, pricing structure, terms of trade, product description, tariff, classification, security policy or profile, and such other information as may be material in enabling the Bureau to monitor and evaluate the continuing eligibility of the accredited member. 11.3 Full disclosure at all times of information as required or requested by Customs under the AEO program. Information, particularly those bearing on trade or business secrets or advantage, provided by the member in the course of the application or as a result of AEO import clearance operations shall be deemed confidential and shall not be disclosed to anyone without the written consent of the applicant, except in the context of judicial proceedings. 11.4 To designate an office or unit and personnel in the member's organization that shall be responsible for ensuring full and prompt compliance with AEO regulations and serve as a liaison with the AEO office to ensure prompt exchange of information and close cooperation necessary for a smooth AEO operation. 11.5 To submit a yearly statement of no material change, if such is the case, in relation to the information referred to in the immediately preceding provision. 11.6 To voluntarily disclose to the Bureau any inadvertent errors or innocent deviation from the AEO procedure with an undertaking and concrete proposal to rectify the lapse. The disclosure is without prejudice to the application of any sanction or action provided for in existing rules and regulations applicable in the premises. 11.7 Complete, up-to-date, and accessible record-keeping system for all documents in electronic or hard copies pertaining to business and import operations. 11.8 Such other requirements as may be determined by the AEO office. Section 12. Suspension and revocation of accreditation. Once granted, Accreditation under the AEO program shall last until suspended, revoked, or cancelled through voluntary withdrawal from the program as provided in Section 13 hereof. 12.1 Grounds. The accreditation may be suspended or revoked, depending on the degree of culpability and resulting injury to the government, under any of the following conditions, after due notice and hearing. 12.1.1 For suspension. A. If at any time an AEO member's security measures and supply chain security practices fail to meet any of the requirements under Section 9.1 hereof. B. Repeated and unjustified failure or refusal to comply with official directives or mandates from the Bureau. C. Habitual delinquency in complying with AEO regulations or in abiding by the terms and conditions of AEO membership. D. Recommendation based on periodic evaluation by the post-validation unit of the member's performance in its AEO operations over a given period of time indicating the existence of significant risk to customs revenue or to the cargo supply chain security. E. Member violates any provision of the CMTA, or related laws, rules, and regulations. 12.1.2 For revocation. A member violates any provision of the CMTA, or related laws, rules, and regulations resulting in significant loss of customs revenues or serious injury to public health and welfare. B. If an AEO member knowingly provides false or misleading information to the Bureau during the validation process provided for under the CMO. C. Any other violations that would constitute fraudulent intent or gross negligence. 12.2 Procedure. 12.2.1 Notice of violation. The post-validation unit shall prepare a notice of violation, for approval of the Chief, AEO office, specifying the violations committed by the AEO member within 5 calendar days from the determination of the violations committed. The AEO member shall submit its response on the notice of violation within 10 calendar days from receipt of the notice. 12.2.2 Prior consultation. To determine if resolution other than suspension and revocation is appropriate, the post-validation unit shall review the response and schedule consultation meetings with the AEO member within 10 calendar days from receipt thereof. The consultation should be completed not later than 15 calendar days from the date of the initial consultation. 12.2.3 Recommendation for suspension and revocation. A. If the post-validation unit determines under the preceding section that an alternative resolution is not appropriate, it shall prepare a recommendation to the Chief, AEO office within 5 calendar days from the end of the consultation recommending the suspension and revocation of an existing AEO accreditation or alternative resolution determined, as applicable. B. The Chief, AEO office shall review the recommendation and endorse the same to the Supervising Deputy Commissioner within 5 calendar days from receipt thereof. C. The Supervising Deputy Commissioner shall review and endorse the recommendation to the Commissioner for final approval within 5 calendar days from receipt thereof. D. The Commissioner shall review the recommendation and issue an order of suspension or revocation, as appropriate, within 5 calendar days from receipt of the recommendation. Such order should specifically set forth the grounds for the action, and would be final and conclusive upon the party served unless the AEO member files a written request for reconsideration with the Commissioner. 12.2.4 Order of suspension and revocation. The order of suspension or revocation shall specify the grounds for which the AEO membership was suspended or revoked. In case of suspension, the same shall be effective for a maximum period of 6 months and may be lifted when the reasons or grounds for the suspension have ceased or have been corrected. Section 13. Withdrawal as member of AEO program. AEO accreditation may be withdrawn at the instance of the accredited member without prejudice to reapplication, should the AEO member decide in the future. The withdrawal shall, however, be without prejudice to any liability it may have incurred while still a member of the AEO program. 13.1 Letter of Withdrawal. The AEO member shall submit a letter of withdrawal to the AEO office specifying the reasons for the withdrawal from the AEO program. 13.2 Consultation. The AEO office shall review the letter and may schedule consultation meetings with the AEO member pursuant to Section 12.2.2 prior to giving final action on the withdrawal. 13.3 The withdrawal shall be processed pursuant to Section 12.2.3 of the CMO, except that an order of cancellation of AEO membership will be issued. Section 14. Reconsideration. 14.1. In case of suspension or revocation of accreditation of an AEO member for any of the grounds above mentioned, an AEO member may file a request for reconsideration with the Commissioner not later than 30 calendar days from receipt of the decision, and the Commissioner shall issue a resolution not later than 180 calendar days after the request for reconsideration is filed. 14.2 The request for reconsideration should set forth the response of the AEO member on the order of suspension or revocation. 14.3 Procedure. 14.3.1 The Office of the Commissioner shall endorse the request for reconsideration within 3 calendar days from receipt thereof to the Supervising Deputy Commissioner of the AEO Office for its review and recommendation. 14.3.2 The Supervising Deputy Commissioner shall forward the request within 1 calendar day from receipt thereof to the AEO Office for review and appropriate action. 14.3.3 AEO Office shall review the request and schedule a hearing within 5 calendar days from receipt of the endorsement. The AEO Office shall notify the AEO member of the time and place of the hearing at least 5 calendar days prior thereto. 14.3.4 Conduct of hearing. A. The unit head, post-validation unit shall act as the hearing officer for the proceedings. B. The AEO member may have a representative of his or her choice at the hearing for suspension or revocation. C. All evidence and testimony of witnesses in such proceeding, including substantiation of charges and the answer thereto, should be presented with both parties having the right to cross-examination. D. A record of the proceedings should be made and a copy thereof be delivered to the AEO member within 10 calendar days from the end of the hearings. E. Following a hearing and within 5 calendar days after delivery of a copy of the record, the AEO member may submit additional views and arguments on the basis of such record to the AEO office. F. At the conclusion of such proceedings, or if neither the AEO member nor any designated representative appears for a scheduled hearing, the hearing officer should conclude the hearing, draft a recommendation and transmit all papers for final action to the Chief, AEO office within 15 days from conclusion of the final hearing, as applicable. 14.4 Decision. 14.4.1 The Chief, AEO office shall review the recommendation and endorse the same to the Supervising Deputy Commissioner within 15 calendar days from receipt thereof. 14.4.2 The Supervising Deputy Commissioner shall review and endorse the recommendation to the Commissioner for final approval within 15 calendar days from receipt thereof. 14.4.3 The Commissioner shall review the recommendation and issue a decision, in writing, stating the reasons therefor, with respect to the action proposed by the Supervising Deputy Commissioner within 15 calendar days from receipt of the recommendation. 14.4.4 In case the Commissioner fails to act on the reconsideration within 30 calendar days from receipt of complete records, the decision of the Supervising Deputy Commissioner shall be deemed affirmed. 14.5 The Bureau, after the completion of the process, may publish a list of members who have been suspended or expelled from the AEO program pursuant to the CMO, and shall make such list available to AEO members. Section 15. Appeal. The decision of the Commissioner affirming the suspension or revocation of the member's accreditation may be appealed to the Secretary of Finance within 15 calendar days, pursuant to the doctrine of exhaustion of administrative remedies. An AEO member adversely affected by the decision of the Bureau or the Secretary of Finance may seek redress before the Court of Competent Jurisdiction. Section 16. Confidentiality of information. 16.1 All business document and/or proprietary information are for BOC purposes only. It shall remain confidential and will not be disclosed to a third party without the company's prior written consent. 16.2 Every officer, agent, or employee of the Bureau who shall be found guilty of unlawfully disclosing confidential information gained during any investigation or audit, or using such information for personal gain or to the detriment of the government, the Bureau, or third parties shall be penalized pursuant to Section 1431 of the CMTA and Data Privacy Act, as applicable. Section 17. Benefits. 17.1 Level 1 Benefits. 17.1.1 Exemption from renewal of accreditation. An AEO member shall not be required to renew its membership under any customs accreditation system. In lieu of the annual renewal of accreditation, AEO member shall only be required to periodically update its information and corresponding documentary requirements pursuant to the membership responsibilities of an AEO member in Section 11 hereof. The AEO office shall review the updates and documentary requirements provided by an AEO member pursuant to Section 11 hereof. 17.1.2 For AEO members with a satisfactory system for managing their trade documents, the Bureau may allow the use of trade documents, example bill of lading, invoice, to self-assess their duty and tax liability and, where appropriate, to ensure compliance with other customs requirements. For this purpose, information declared by an AEO member in its goods declaration based on its self-assessment shall be accepted by the Bureau of Customs, provided that information declared thereto are consistent with the trade documents provided by the AEO member. Nothing in this order shall prevent the Bureau from the conduct of compliance audit of an AEO member pursuant to the CMTA and other existing laws, rules, and regulations. 17.1.3 Dedicated Help Desk for AEO Applicants. An AEO online portal shall be created for exclusive use of AEO members and interested applicants, which shall handle the acceptance and processing of AEO applications. B. The AEO Help Desk shall also utilize the online portal to answer all customs-related concerns of AEO members in coordination with the concerned offices of the Bureau of Customs. C. The Management Information System and Technology Group, MISTG, shall assist the AEO office in setting up said online facility. 17.1.4 AEO members shall be accorded recognition by the BOC as trusted trade partners. The AEO office, through the Public Information and Assistance Division, shall publish the list of approved AEO importers and exporters at the official website, social media accounts and other available information platform of the Bureau of Customs. 17.2. Level 2 and 3 Benefits. Supplementary rules and regulations shall be issued to operationalize Level 2 and Level 3 benefits pursuant to CAO 5/2017. Section 18. Periodic Review. Unless otherwise provided, this CMO shall be reviewed every 3 years and be amended or revised, if necessary. Section 19. Separability Clause. If any part of the CMO is declared by courts as unconstitutional or contrary to existing laws, the other parts not so declared shall remain in full force and effect. Section 20. Repealing Clause. Customs Memorandum Order, CMOs, 11/2012 and 14/2013 are deemed revoked, amended, and/or modified accordingly. Section 21. Effectivity. This CMO shall take effect immediately.